I'm telling you right now, if you didn't spend a fuck ton of time on Algalon at PTR, you're not going to get Algalon week 1.
Hello and welcome to the Classic Life Podcast, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Me and my boy Crix hosting it, talking about everything World of Warcraft and classic gaming in general. We have today two amazing special guests. We've got Joardee as well as WillE. WillE, one of the biggest YouTubers and the biggest YouTuber for World of Warcraft Classic and a massive just MMOs in general. And Joardee has just been putting in the most time on the PTR and is going to be making the best and most well done guides for Ulduar, which is absolutely going to be necessary. You'll understand after today's conversations that these fights are not easy. Guys, welcome to the stream. First off, Crix, how you doing today, brother?
Doing great, brother. Tired of Ulduar, but in a good way. Ready, excited for today's episode. Happy that WillE and Joardee came and joined us.
Yeah, WillE, you were able to hop in with your guild into the PTR. How did it feel?
Yeah, we definitely didn't clear as far as some of you guys have. I know from checking out the streams, but it ain't easy. And tier 7 gear, these fights a lot of them are genuinely really, really difficult. I'll be interested to see, when we get around to talking about gear, how fast you guys think we're going to start overcoming them. But these fights aren't a joke.
Yeah, not at all. Joardee, you were in there sometimes 12 hours at a time fighting the same boss. How are you feeling after this weekend?
I'm pretty tired. It was a lot of fun. I had never done Ulduar, so learning the fights on stream in front of everybody was very exciting and exhausting. And but I think we did what we intended to do, and Crix was there for all of it, and it was just super fun.
Yeah, you guys were one of the only guilds. I'm not even sure how many actually cleared Yogg 0, but to put in that much time and be able to get down pretty much what would be the hardest boss, and then Algalon, right? And well, you didn't kill Algalon, but getting that much time in on Algalon before we have a 1 hour time limit a week, which is gonna be juicy, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that we really wanted Yogg, and then we spent probably an extra day and a half on him, longer than we should have, because various reasons. And then that extra day we got last night was really nice because we got to spend some time progging on Algalon, and we got him to 14%, which is close enough for the kill that we feel like we know the fight. So
yeah, 14. Yeah, you pretty much, that's pretty much there. And you had 2 days ish of progression on him, right? Yesterday was a full day, and then
a few hours the night before.
Yeah, we did like a couple hours just kind of like messing around, and then yesterday was our first real push. So
all right. Crix, how did you feel about the PTR and stuff? You've done Ulduar a lot more than probably any of us. Yeah, a lot more recently than any of us.
This was the first time that Yogg, I would say Yogg, right? Yogg and Algalon. Those are the first times since I quit retail where it felt almost like a retail progression. Not in terms of difficulty, because it still was. Why we will say many times that this is a difficult raid, it's still way easier than you can expect in a mythic raid, right? But it's still just as unforgiving as a mythic raid would be. Like something where you go to retail and one thing hits you and one shots you. There might not be that many of those mechanics, but there's enough where you need to watch out for a lot of things. And as a caster, where I don't have to do like a whole, I can't move in melee, I got to cast, and then Demo look at that, like hard casting, no dots. It's it's fun. It's a lot of fun, but you definitely got to pay attention more than my stoner brain likes to most of the time. But it's a lot of fun, and I had a blast. And it was the first time since I started playing Classic that I got that rating itch from a Blizzard server, obviously, of course. And that's one thing I liked in terms of private server stuff too. It wasn't, obviously private servers are obviously tuned a little bit differently, but the tuning felt good. It wasn't like clunky. It wasn't just like we buffed the boss by this much and he hits this much harder. It felt like generally all around like they tuned that raid very well.
Yeah,
and I like it.
Yeah, I think that's we all have relatively different perspectives of like how we went in and dealt with the raid itself. You two up top, Crix and Joardee, you guys went in with the same raid in the same guild, but WillE, you went in there with your guild is less hardcore than theirs, and you guys didn't get the full clears.
I think most are, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think there's probably only a few which are more hardcore. So yeah, it was definitely less hardcore. We saw I don't know, we spent most time on Iron Council and had a few look at we had a bit of a look at Algalon on both 1025 and just to get a feel for it really ahead of it releasing.
Were you guys focusing on the hard modes, or did you kind of deal with the normal modes when you were pushing through?
Mainly the hard modes. We didn't even do all the normal ones in the end. But yeah, I'd say we spent the most time on Iron Council and Hodia. But yeah, we're still a bit off actually landing kills on them. But yeah, it was mainly about seeing the fights, seeing how they are ahead of release, and yeah, just testing what it's like.
Did you do Tin Man's, Willie?
Yeah, I did a bit of 10 mans. Most of it was in 25 though.
So how did you feel? Unless Sarthe had a direction for this conversation, which you can go ahead and take it away. I just wanted to start with Tin Man stuff. See how you guys felt about it. Sarthe, did you have a direction you wanted to go with that?
That's perfect.
Okay, Willie, how did you feel about Tin Man's, Willie? And then everybody else can chime in.
It's like a different tier of difficulty. They're so much easier than 25. It's like you can't really compare them. Like XT, for example, on 10-man hard mode is a joke. Straightforward. On 25-man hard mode, I don't think it's possible in tier 7 gear. Or like, has anyone actually done it?
I think we're like, what, 7 off or something, Joardee?
It's an insane DPS check. Like,
yeah,
for Hodia,
25-man, that like,
XT.
Yeah, the heart has about 10 mil health on 25. On 10-man, it's like 1.6.
I don't think anybody
it's
got it
possible.
on 25.
I agree.
Yeah.
I bet that boss gets tuned a bit because unkillable week 1 feels like a bad idea.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people got the math done on it and saying like even with the best like parse raids doing things like of like a short raid where it's all unholy DKs, they weren't able to see the numbers adding up of getting the kill. Like the heart itself, easy to take down, right? Like 2 or 3 good unholy DKs literally take down the heart by like it's very easy to blast the heart. But then once he gets that insane HP buff, you're just like, and you have to deal with the sparks, and the people are getting one shot from the gravity bomb because not everyone has like I think it was 30k ish damage. It is a rough fight.
The tantrum damage was I don't know if it was fixed, but it's like 10% max health every second for 12 seconds.
Yeah,
on everyone. That's a lot of damage.
Early in the raid, you start with XT, right? And it's one of those fights where it's not heavy mechanics, but you do need to move. It's mechanics that you, once again, unforgiving. Then there's ads, and then there's the first boss. I don't know what all classic Joardee can chime in there, but the first boss that I think I've noticed maybe since Sunwell, where you have your healing cooldowns out at a certain time for everything because of tantrum, right? You have all your DPS. Your whole raid needs to understand that you have to kill the heart. Like, don't troll, don't pre-pot, don't do anything trolly, don't pop any cooldowns, don't do anything crazy. Like your trinket swapping, so you can get your trinket off cooldown in 45 seconds. Everything that you can do to put as much power into that heart, and then the fight starts, right? And people are. But
I think XT was a bit of an outlier, but 10-man in general, since they're splitting the difficulties, you've got normal and hard mode now. It's like there's 10-man, which is really its own difficulty. Then there's 10-man hard mode, and each one is a further step up. So I think it's going to be a really important step that people realize the value in 10-mans. And I think for the majority of guilds, when Ulduar releases, they should be doing 10-mans before they even think about 25s. There's so much good gear, and it's like one item level behind KT and Malagos loot. Without being on hard mode. And there's a ton of value in 10-mans. They're pretty simple. We might wipe a few times on some of the later bosses, but largely it's good sort of progression content into the harder stuff.
Go ahead.
I've said it so many times on stream already, and especially after this weekend and seeing how hard the fights can be on 25, mainly the hard modes. Just the idea of this eye level scaling Blizzard did will, within like weeks, a month, make the fights so much easier. Right now, tanks are dying. If you're not perfectly timing CDs on hard modes, you're not killing the boss, right? And you're organizing the entire raid and all of the cooldowns, which feels a lot more like retail, which is kind of awesome. But a lot of guilds that are going to struggle day one, the easiest thing they could do is just do an Ulduar 10-man split really fast. Like, Just get that loot, and it's so much of an upgrade. And you'll see all of the encounters. You'll know pretty much all of the mechanics. It's just like an easier and way more forgiving version, so that when you go into 25-man and do it, those mechanics won't just like one-shot you, because you know what it looks like and what to look out for. And having that experience of actually doing it, if you didn't run all of the normal modes or hard modes on the PTR itself yet, is going to be like so helpful for your guild. But that gear really is just phenomenal, and knocking out the 10-man hard modes in a pug, I think that most people will be able to do it if they know how to do it, like if they watch like a guide, or if they just like are in comms or anything like that.
I was gonna say, 10-mans are very, 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 very easy.
The progression week 1 should be on 10-man hard modes for majority of guilds.
I think
in the 25-man normals into the hard modes.
A huge thing that you said, Sarthe, was like learning the fights before you have 25 people sitting there trying to learn them together. And 10-man's really good for that, because like the hard modes especially, there's just no room for error. Like you either meet the thing that you're supposed to, or you die. And in 10-man, you do have a little bit of room for error, but you still get that feedback that, oh, what I did was wrong.
You'll take like some damage,
but okay, that was bad. And then in 25-man hard modes, you're like, oh, that thing that didn't kill us but was bad is now killing us. I need to do it correctly. And 10-man's is really good for that. And you can actually like, it can be pretty demoralizing to walk into a raid and beat your head against something over and over and over again, and then not get it, and then have like 6 bosses ahead of you that are unkilled. And I think getting some progression on 10-man done, so that you have some wins under your belt, you're like, okay, this place isn't too bad. You can really feel like, all right, I can do this.
Then also you've seen the encounters, you know them, and then when you're stuck on, let's just say it, right, the first real like stopgap for most people week 1 is going to be that hard mode Iron Council, and they're not even going to do like the hardest version, right? Do you need to get the Algalon quest? I don't think so, right?
You can do the medium version, which is the Rune Master last.
Okay, so that like the real stopgap is absolutely going to be Iron Council. Iron Council hard mode, there was almost I don't know if I saw a guild not struggle on that the first day, right? Once we had less of like the DC issues, it was just that last final phase of Iron Council hard mode was like hours and hours for every single guild. It doesn't matter who you were.
25 took us 25 pools, right? Already, something like
that.
Yeah. You need a super clean transition. You can't have anyone die early, like at all.
Also, especially with that fight, which we can go over at some point, because we want to do an episode where we go over all the bosses like together as a group. Like greed is a big thing here. I'm one of them too. I'm a greedy player. I'm a DPS guy, right? But we know like everything is, you can't be greedy anywhere. That fight, the runes, every fight we can go down, there's a greed section where we can literally make a section and say, do not do this, right? Like do not fucking fit this category. And there's a lot on Iron Council. Fun fight though. My favorite fight, one of them.
Incredibly fun, but it's another one that's like very punishing, right? If you don't get a clean transition into the last phase, and like people die, if you don't have clean like spreads on the rune, on the death rune on the ground, you're pretty much like that's going to be a wipe. You're dead, and it's over, right? If you don't have like, if you lose people in the last phase, if your boss gets healed early, right? Like it's too late. You don't have the DPS, especially without us all having full Ulduar gear to recompensate for any real mistakes. And that's why I think starting in 10-man for almost every guild is just, it's going to be like this nice, like day 1 is going to feel so nice. You're going to get these kills. You're going to be like, oh, I can do Ulduar. We've done it. And you're getting some new loot, so that the next day or day 2, you just go in and you can go and start clearing through 25-man, and people will like understand assignments, which is huge.
I would dare say that you have to do 10-mans in the normals before you do hard modes. All of us had pretty much phase 1 BIS gear on, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't think our raid is like, our real raid has everybody in full BIS, right? That's just because it was maybe your demo lock does, or maybe like another person does, but not everybody in your raid. You don't have 25 people full phase 1 bis. You might, but not a lot of people do. We were in all that and still wiping our asses off. So it's like I would say that how Sarthe is saying that you need to split 10 mans. That is so important to do, I think. And then you need loot. It's gonna be rough, dude. It's gonna be rough.
It's got
a lot of fun though
as well, because it's like 10 man's 10 and 25's 25.
Yeah, there's 5
So,
people
you're gonna have to
missing
run
out.
Who's on the
three sets
bench,
of
you know?
10s, is what I would say.
Sucks.
That split decision is going to be really interesting. But like a big thing is like the tanks, right? Like your tanks having gear, I would say is one, and I'm curious how you would think as a healer, Joardee, one of the most crucial things in progression and making this raid easier. Like right now in current gear, it is literally impossible, from my understanding, for a feral druid to tank on Algalon. Like it's
hard. I wouldn't say possible. It's hard.
okay.
We had our feral tanking Algalon somewhat yesterday, and you know she got clapped occasionally, but it wasn't impossible. But yeah, I mean, ostensibly yes. Like okay, so for your point on the tanks, we did like all the boss kills, whatever, and then at one point we're like, okay, let's try to think ahead to Algalon, and we know how hard he's hitting. Let's make sure that our tanks have every piece of gear that drops that they want, so that they're all the more beefed up for Algalon. And it actually worked out really well. Baron had like 3-piece tier 8 going into Algalon. He was getting hit really, really hard, but it wasn't unhealable. And I think that is the play week 1, if you're thinking ahead to Algalon, is making sure your tanks are geared first, because there's multiple fights where like there's this fight, there's Algalon, there's Vezax, there's even Yogg phase 3 if you're doing zero light. Like those things really, really, really hurt, and you need your tank to be as beefy as possible. And in the loot guide I'm just going to be like, give everything to your tanks and then everybody else. So that's the answer.
No. You have to be fair and spread it out to everyone. But it's like, then you might not actually kill a lot of the fights.
Yeah. Well, it's really exciting because up until now, it's just been like, oh, DPS gets whatever they want, whenever they want. And then you'll gear your tanks because nothing hits hard enough that it matters. But finally, we're at the point where it's like, oh no, you'll just get globaled if you don't have the gear. And it's fun to see a change in philosophy finally.
Yeah. I mean, with change in philosophy, this is the first time we're seeing, like I was saying earlier, fights where we really have like it's kind of comes with Wrath, where there's really like so many raid wide cooldowns, and everyone has like their own personal cooldown versus like healer cooldowns, DSAC and stuff, where we're really like, you're very widely coordinating those instead of thinking of like lusts, right? Like that was like the main raid wide CD, lusts and like pain suppression. And that was like it. Now there's so many things to rotate moving into this raid that like you're kind of having to do that a lot of the times. On like every time a mechanic comes out, it's like, which one can we use now? Which one can we use now? And kind of organizing that. Did you guys find that relatively easy, or was that a little bit challenging, this being like kind of the first time we're really dealing with having to make sure that those are done and coordinated well?
I think we've picked up on it pretty fast. I mean, a lot of people have been in the guild, have raided a lot before Classic as well on retail and so on, or some of them even raided both at the same time for quite a while. So I reckon they picked up on it pretty fast. But it's going to be a bit of a shock, like more so than fights that have been hard in the past. You know, your Vash and Kael'thas and Muru and all those. This is kind of on a different level to that even. It feels more like retail raiding, to be honest. And it's the first tier which has had this separation in difficulty, where you do need to be a lot more clean with what you're doing, rather than just like you say, when do we lost in the fight, and that's kind of it. And that's all you had to care about. I'm wondering if we'll start, because at the moment, if you join a guild, you just join a 17 out of 17 guild that's clearing everything. There's like no progression guilds. Are there going to be guilds now where you're just like, are we a normal, like a 10-man hard mode guild and 25-man normal? Are those guilds going to start to appear? compared to the more hardcore guilds who are, clearing Yogg Zero and Algalon every week.
Going to be progression guilds for months. I think that in terms
No,
of
but
I don't know where
until the next phase.
Oh yeah, I would definitely think that's 100% true. This is rough. There's going to be some fights. There's some bosses that I don't think are going to die until they get nerfed. To some of these people.
Really?
The guilds that struggled on Lady Vash is just 14 times harder than Lady Vash. Lady Vash is you paying attention.
Yeah.
Lady Vash is you paying attention and needing good RNG on those stupid ass everything else that came with that fight. Yogg is there's no RNG with Yogg, but that's just idiocy among 25 people trying to figure the fight.
There's a ton of RNG.
I know, but you get it. But like a lot of those all the stuff that kills the DPS, more or less you can avoid. Besides like psychosis, all this other shit, the stuff that kills you, beams, fucking crushers, the main deaths from our logs. When you look at them, those are avoidable. Is what I mean.
Yeah,
the common deaths are avoidable.
I think like what like I've never played the I think they call it modern retail, and I'm finding it interesting that you need to plan out your cooldowns ahead of time for like all of the hard encounters. And so you just have like spreadsheets on timing and what cooldowns you're using, and like the Algalon assignment sheet is just like 30 seconds you pop DSec, 45 seconds you pop AM, 60 seconds you pop DSec, and like that's really cool and difficult because if you miss one you lose. And I think that's more of a retail mindset, right? So that's it's fun to get a taste of that, and now I kind of see, okay, this is what modern rating is. Yeah, but it is kind of sad to say goodbye to the just send it vibe.
Wait, you prefer that?
I don't know if I prefer it. It's my first taste. I guess I'm still getting used to it. I don't know.
Is this where the dad gaming comes out, where we're all like,
you're in a position where you'll be sending it after a month. Like if you're in a good guild,
well, sure,
really will be nice.
But I think with gear, you're more able to do that, right? But like right now, if you're not planning ahead, like okay, so for Algalon specifically, those collapsing stars do 20,000 damage, and if you have 22,000 health, you can't eat that without a cooldown, right? Or you will die. Whereas once you're in tier 8 gear, you have 25,000 health. There's a bit more wiggle room, and you can eat one without using a cooldown, and like that's gonna matter an insane amount. And I'm a bit sad that because a lot of times people are like, oh, this content's really easy after they've been farming gear for 12 weeks, and then they start Algalon progression and they're like, oh, it's really easy. It's like, well, no shit, it's easy. You're doing it with every piece of gear you want in this tier, where we're doing it with last tier, and so that's frustrating. But like it's gonna matter a lot. And Blizzard, I think, was smart in buffing the eye level in order to extend the duration of Ulduar's relevancy, but also to maybe accelerate over time people's ability to clear it, knowing it's harder than what we're used to. So it kind of does two things. So
I think it really goes hand in hand, and the eye level buffs, like we were saying with like 10-man, is just getting that gear can have such a like each piece has a feeling, like you actually feel it, like how much more powerful your class is. And like obviously starting with the tanks, that makes a huge difference because tanks die now, whereas beforehand I guess tanks would die on like Brutalis. That's the first time we really experienced tank deaths, or like Resuvius, but like it shouldn't, right? So now it's like every fight there's something that can kill the tank, and then like some of the fights it's like these fights, if you're not healing the tank and you're not rotating your CDs and not watching them, like tanks clapped in like 0.7 seconds. Like Algalon, main hand, offhand, smash. Oh my god, you're down.
While your DPS are standing and shit.
Yeah, and now
healed.
That part I love, right? Like that part is like one of my favorite things, is where there's the personal responsibility of like abilities that go out, and if like you didn't notice it, you die. I think for me, I really like that aspect of the game that they're now adding in, instead of like there was a lot less for you to worry about other than like pumping until now. Even with Sunwell, it was like, okay, as long as I didn't get targeted by the twins like bomb, then I don't need to run out. Like I don't need to really, my personal responsibility is RNG. And like, so a lot of times you would notice like in pugs or even in guild runs, people would be zoning out and you'd be like yelling their name and like, bomb, 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 bomb. And they would be like, what? And then you wipe the raid. I mean, it's happened in speed runs for some guilds. And it's crazy. So now it's like everyone has this little bit of personal responsibility on a lot of the fights. And I think it adds a lot of this aspect of like, players will have to play better, especially early on before we get this gear, because the scaling really, if anyone, I saw a Reddit post even to your point a second ago, Joardee, where it was like, Yogg Zero has already been killed by the guild noobs. This is going to be so easy. This tier is going to be so easy. And it was like, they spent 12 hours the first day straight up on that fight. And then the next day they got it at the end of their raiding day. Like they are the best, one of the best guilds, if not one, like very strongly one of the best guilds in WoW Classic, and they spent 2 full days doing it, right?
Yeah. And I mean, anytime I hear that, I'm just like, don't worry about it. When Liquid or whoever or Echo clears, what is it, Vault of the, I forget the name in retail, the latest Mythic raid, when they clear it at the start of the second reset, I guess that means it's easy, huh?
Yeah, right?
Not
Like
exactly.
No one says people who are like,
no, I don't
Fusion was
think
in there
so.
for 4 days.
Yeah.
Just shit talking this for. Those are the same people who are going to be hard stuck in there, bro. Don't worry. Anybody
Yeah.
who's shit talking, anybody who's doing this PTR, know that they will be hard stuck soon. No matter if you're in a good guild or a bad guild, you're going to be hard stuck on a boss soon. You have your little 3-4 hour raid that everybody, I don't know, just guessing how long you raid for on a week. Yeah, that's like fucking that 4 hours goes real fast on new content, because one, you're excited to see new content, you're pumping, you're getting loot and all this stuff, and then you're dying. So that makes everything goes faster. You really start to appreciate how each pull is 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, because you're wiping 4 minutes in. Now you're waiting for Lust. Oh, I guess it resets. We had a bug where Lust wasn't resetting the first time we did it. But I mean, your raid days are starting to go fast now, bro.
So thankful they made that change. Imagine if Lust didn't reset. Imagine on Iron Council. It'd be 10 minutes.
The first day that we were in there, it was not resetting. So we'd go do Iron Council, and then we'd have to literally wait every single time. So we'd do Iron Council. Okay, go kill the next boss, and come back and do Iron Council. Wipe. Do the next boss. Come back. Do Iron Council. Wipe.
That's when you kill Kolagard.
Yeah,
we just go back and forth.
Doing it without Lust
at
the moment. Like not even close. No one is.
Fixed it like day 2 or something like that. But yeah, it was definitely very important, because it wasn't resetting health. It wasn't resetting cooldowns either way.
It wasn't registering as encounters.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Crazy.
Like fights weren't registering as encounters. Also, like I don't think Warcraft logs could track logs of the encounter fight itself. You would have to like individually log that section, because there was no encounter start and encounter end in the coding. That was the issue. So that's why Lust and CDs wouldn't register to reset.
Oh, yeah. They're working on logs, but yeah, they definitely weren't working in the game. It was pretty tilting, but it got worked out eventually.
Yeah.
Besides like the DC bug, then there's one where like every time that you'd release Spirit, it would take you out of the world server, so you'd be stuck for like 45,000 minutes, and everybody be like, "Oh, I'm down," and you hear like 7 people go, "I'm down" at the same time, and then we're all like, "Okay, stop releasing, guys. We have to have rest." It's pretty annoying.
Well, so one thing, like, right, we just mentioned the most people, like, your raid night is like, let's say 3 to 5 hours. 5 hours is probably long for an average guild, and you probably have 2, maybe 3 at the beginning of the phase for your guild, and seeing the guilds like, let's say like Fusion, like you guys spent multiple 12-hour days, right? Like pretty much in there all the time. Yeah, I know, Joardee. To get these things down, how long do you think, because WillE was saying about like actual progression guilds, how long do you think it takes before most, like your average, your general guilds full clear this raid, not including Algalon, because that is its own beast where you have 1 hour a week, and I genuinely think that's going to be so hard for people. So how long do you think, starting with you, Joardee?
I think so. It's kind of hard to know exactly. Like we did a re-clear a couple days ago after having kind of gone through everything, and it took us like 2.5-ish hours with some wipes on Iron Council and some Freya wipes and Hodier wipes and stuff. But
you one-shot Mimir on hard mode. Yeah,
we did. Mimron's actually not too bad once everyone knows what they're doing. It's just teaching everyone how to deal with the fires and stuff. But I think I I think that with a little bit of gear, with your chosen provider of boss guys, it doesn't have to be me, just whoever, and some focus, you won't have too difficult of a time after a month of like sending it in there. But early on, it's going to take a while. People are going to have to learn. I can't stand in sunbeams on Freya. I can't eat a rocket on Mimiron. I can't, all these like pass fail mechanics. Yeah, don't send your pets on crushers. Get those pet macros out of your fucking spells, guys. Just like make a separate macro for sending your pet in, because it is going to grief your raid if you're sending a pet in on those crushers. So it's like all those different things. And then also like I think that you should have a realistic plan going into your raid night and be like, here's what we want to do. If after 45 minutes of prog on Hodir we don't get it, let's just kill it normal mode and move on, because you don't want to be missing out on that loot income of some of the easier modes, and stuff like that is going to really suck if you're like spending 3 hours on Mimiron and you don't get it, and then you don't have time to finish Yogg. You know what I mean? So it's like, but yeah, to answer your question, I think like a really fair focused raid night is about 4 hours to full clear Ulduar for your average guild, with however many hard modes that you want to throw in that you are able to tackle, and it'll get easier over time.
Yeah. So that's like not bad at all. It's really well put together. But like, I think the idea of noticing, right, like you're spending a lot of time on something, and then like being like, we have a finite amount of time tonight. Let's get the gear, because we don't want to miss out this week on getting the kills in general. If we might not get the hard mode, let's just do the normal mode, and it will drastically help us towards next week. Willie, how do you feel about that towards your guild, and how long you think it might take for you guys to get through the raid?
Yeah, I think well, after seeing it, I'm hoping that we are going to be putting a bit of focus into 10-mans, really. I think even with like it might be in the case of the whole race to world first thing, there might be a bit more interest to it than there's been in the past. I don't know if we're going to talk about it later, but
yeah,
are people going to do splits like they're doing retail, like they're doing right now in retail, where they're just doing splits again and again for gear because it's not worth trying before you have more gear? Is that going to end up being faster? But yeah, I think in terms of ourselves, I don't know. It could be a case where it's a second reset thing. But I think even for a lot of servers, there's going to be a week one that goes by and there's no Death's Demise on the server.
Yeah.
I think
that could definitely happen.
Clearing
on a lot of
everything
servers.
week one is going to be absolutely tiny, like single-digit %, low number.
I love it.
Overall, across all players.
Does Death's Demise require Algalon?
No.
I was gonna say, Joardee, can you go over what's all required for server first and whatever else for the race?
Sure. So for the titles, Blizzard was smart about this decision, and for Death's Demise, which is the realm first Yogg 0 title, you need to kill Iron Council hard mode, and then the 4 keepers, Mimiron, Freya, Hodir, and Thorim. You don't need to do any other hard modes except those 5, and then Yogg 0. And then for Algalon, you need Iron Council hard mode, the 4 keepers, and then Algalon. So why this is smart is because if you wanted to go for a realm first title like Yogg 0, the Death's Demise, you were incentivized to be skipping hard modes on a bunch of these fights to go straight to Yogg, because you didn't have to do the hard modes in order to get to him. But now you do in order to get the title. But by going for Death's Demise, you would be sacrificing your Algalon lockout that week, because you wouldn't have the key. Because Algalon requires you to finish the quest, which is Iron Council and the 4 keepers hard mode. So this is great because guilds that want to push for one don't have to sacrifice the other. Guilds that want to push for the other don't have to sacrifice Yogg. So yeah. And then Warcraft logs only requires like all of this that you're seeing right now on your screen. None of that matters. Just know if you get Yogg 0 and Algalon, you get full credit. And everyone is freaking out over this point system. And to me, none of this matters. It's just like, just kill Algalon and Yogg 0 and you're done. And like, it looks complicated and over the top, but you know, they have to track it somehow. So
yeah, they have to give like some sort of advantage for killing something on a hard mode, right? And this is for like the world first and stuff, but they didn't say like what the points will come out to. But for most guilds going for, or the fight or the race for world first, do you think, would you say you think Algalon's gonna die week 1?
yes, 100%.
100% in that 1 hour. That's gonna be, do you think,
Yes.
how many guilds do you think will be able to pull it off? That's a
If they don't nerf him, less than 10. If they do nerf him a little bit, more than that.
all right, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to change it. I mean, he's pre-nerf, but he's also buffed by 20% damage and health, I think, because they wanted Herald of the Titans to remain really difficult. So he's like
everyone who
pre-nerf
has
and
like Bis gear on Algalon is like, on Algalon 25 it's so rough, because that fight is just
unforgiving.
it's gonna be
yeah, you kind of clap.
It's all just it's all
really
just
hard.
unforgiving. But it's also one of those things where you can see it too, right? It's easy for me to say now, you know, because I got hit by a million of them. But you can see you can see the dark holes for the most part. You can see the ads. You can see almost everything that's gonna come fuck you up. It's just that we're all spoiled with, I can soak this, or I can take this little bit of something, or I got a bubble on me, or I got, you know, a million different excuses, and we get hit by it, then you die.
Well,
and you're like,
well,
oh,
you
shit.
can't
Yeah.
always see the cosmic smashes.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
Here,
yeah, it's hard to
do
actually
you have that
see.
clip, Sarthe?
Yeah, I was about to say, you can, there's a couple, isn't there a couple times where
Here,
you literally
send-
need to change your settings
All right,
to
I'll
be able
send
to
you the
see
clip.
things?
Hold on.
Yeah, I was like, because
This
it's
is
a
from,
very bright room.
Holy Palace in Noda, I believe, has a clip of just some garbage. Let me find it.
Yeah, I've been hit.
That is a very good point.
for it. I've been hit
Go
by
ahead.
it, and it's literally invisible.
Yeah, good point. I forgot I had to change my settings.
But yeah,
Yeah.
the floor is way too bright. It should be a lot darker. You go look at World First from 2009. The floor's like black.
What's the other boss that has visual issues like this? Isn't there
I
two?
can't find it.
It's like this one and like one more that you can't really see at all. And I had to change. I'm colorblind as fuck too. So like I legitimately like almost don't want to do Algalon and Prague because I can't, like, it's so hard to see those things. But once they said, like, it looks like one thing one way, but when you look at it from bird's eye, you see it so much better, right? And I'm like, oh, I can actually see it from bird's eye. It's like a visual spot.
To help out, like looking directly above your character actually helps so much for this room, because like, yeah, the lighting on things and like the shading on some of the mechanics, like the smashes and stuff, are kind of ridiculous. And if you don't have, like, obviously you need enemy like frames, right, or like nameplates, because if you didn't, you wouldn't see these collapsing stars like right on top of you. They're just like, they blend in. Everything is all kind of this one like star colored white-ish, bluish, you know, and then the smashes, like those red circles aren't super obvious, right? It actually it's something reminiscent of, you know, when on Kel'Thuzad right now, how like every week in a lot of raids, you're like, people can't see the void zones if you have a lot of DKs. It's exactly that. It's like exactly that, but maybe even like times
worse. It's way
2.
worse than that. It's worse than
Yeah.
that. It's worse than what it is on KT. Because I can see
You're
the
not a
void circles. I
melee.
cannot see these. Oh, that's true. I'm not into it. Yeah, but I can still. I'm metaing in emo aura, so I'm in. I don't see them when I'm in when I'm in emo aura.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely see those more than you can see the whatever the fuck cosmic smashes. It's like really, really hard to see.
Fix it, surely.
Well, there was a trick to turn your contrast up and turn your brightness down a little bit, and that helped drastically on my part from my perspective. It helps so much, like in terms of doing
I mean,
it.
it's just bugged. Like the floor's way too bright.
This fight is so much fucking fun looking at it.
Yeah,
Ugh,
dude, it's so
I can't
crazy.
wait for everyone to hate it. It's so fun.
Except for Joardee's face like yesterday.
As a disc priest, this fight is the most specifically, it's so specifically good for disc. It's insane. And you can feel like a golden god if you do it right, because you are abusing the shit out of Rapture every 15 seconds. and you can just be full mana the whole fight if you do it right. But if some fuck gets hit by a cosmic smash too early and pops your rapture too early before you're ready, it's so enraging. And okay, whatever. It's fantastic. I can't wait for you guys to get a shot at it. It's
Actually,
super fun.
I wanted to mention healers. So obviously we got the established meta, right? You got your holy paladins, they're great. You got a disc priest, they're great. But there's so much damage going out in these fights. Is there realistically any like chance of resto druid or holy priest even becoming a bit more meta? Because they're really able to, like, health bars are going down so consistently that it's not the case where all the damage is being absorbed by the disc and then the holy's doing the rest. Is there enough damage going out where you could really see the likes of resto druid or holy priest?
I think Resto Druid stonks are crazy high. Resto Druid
good right
throughput right now is so, it probably feels so fun to play because you see so many numbers right now on your screen, and then you look at the meter, you're like, I am a golden god. You're healing so much. What do you think, Joardee, as a healer? Like,
I mean, definitely. I loved having Resto Druid in almost every fight except Algalon and maybe Yogg, but they're fantastic. Like Iron Council hard mode, they were topping because the amount of just like consistent tick raid damage, they can just roll constant, and there's a lot of fights where just Resto Druid was fantastic. So and then Resto Shaman, everyone keeps asking about Resto Shaman. I feel like Resto Shaman is great in a lot of places. It's almost necessary on Algalon because you want to roll the inspiration armor buff on the tank at all times, and Resto Shaman's really, really good at applying it. And then Holy Priest, we bring our Holy Priest Nexus to every fight because he's just an insanely good healer, and he's, you know, he sits on a soapbox and rants about holy everywhere he can go. But it's really good, and Guardian Spirit is a really, really, really strong tank cooldown because tanks get clapped, and a lot of time you're like, okay, that tank's gonna die. I have to move. I'm gonna throw Guardian Spirit up and just know he's not gonna die in the next second because it's gonna proc, and I can still move and be safe, and it's fine. So, and then Glyph, it's you get to use it every minute, so that's great. So, on Yogg 0, Guardian Spirit's really good. On Algalon
as well.
Yeah, Body and Soul is really big for speedrunning and tanks getting in position, and like if someone's caught in some bullshit, you can Body and Soul them and they just go sprinting away, and like so I don't know. I can't tell you what's best. We'll see where the meta ends up settling, but I would bring 2 Holy Paladins at least and a Disc Priest for most everything.
Holy Pali's still too good. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, DSAC is such a strong cooldown, and Bop, and
that's right. You can bring a rep. They're good, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I wanted to ask all of you guys, what do you think are like the top like 3 classes that are shining early on in Ulduar? Because it feels like 3 kind of stand above all the rest from almost every raid, and I think that's well, I'm not even just thinking about healers, but like the 3 classes that in general that you think are like gonna be like, for lack of a better word, really like is like the like S tier classes early Ulduar. Who are the winners of this Ulduar PTR?
It's kind of hard to do it without separating DPS and healers because like we like DKs. We like, well, from my perspective, DPS is like locks, DKs. Your paladins for paladins in general for healing, tanking, like paladins
and tanking, right?
Paladins are, so I say if you had to separate, you got to separate it because DPS.
That was 3 classes though. You just said the 3 that I was thinking.
Yeah, but that doesn't leave room for how good mages are. What the fuck? Mages are phenomenal. I would say mages are up there with locks and DKs, or if you're talking about just the 3 DPS, rogues are phenomenal. Shadow priests, everything is so good. Whereas we're including paladin because they're our support and the tanking. You see what I mean?
I mean, how many mages do you bring? How many shadow priests do you bring? Compared to how many paladins, warlocks, and DKs?
One priest, right? Only one shadow priest, not gonna be more than one. But that shadow priest has an important job if you need to have that extra healer, and vice versa. Flexibility on healers being able to DPS.
That's fair. Okay, let me reframe my question. Which classes do you think you'll bring multiple of?
Priests, Paladins, Warlocks, DKs.
Joardee?
I mean, yeah, DK, Pally, Warlock are the big winners, and that's the same class spread as in Nax. It's I think your rogues are also really good. Feint is a really, really strong cooldown to just take less raid damage, and they are really beefy. And there's a lot of threat redirects happening, and I don't know. I mean, Crix popped the fuck off all weekend long, and it was really fun to see. I mean, I was pumping him with PIs, but it was really fun to see.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, to see Warlocks shine, and people are always like, Warlocks are great, but it's like they're really.
I think the difference from Warlocks now that people are saying is Affliction with things lasting, not just Affliction. Demo's. I'm shocked at Demo. I didn't know Demo was gonna be that crazy, but both are dot specs, right? Everything is a dot spec. Everything.
Yep.
Where a lot of like Iron Council, for example, we're dotting those, even though it's padding, but it fuels our resources. So we have to, because it fuels our resources for a single target. DKs also. I'm still impressed with DKs. Like I know Sarthe, you speak on the DK situation with the Unholy and Frost, but I love how DKs look. It's crazy. It's like Spoon, our DK, a couple of our DKs are absolutely slapping. There is Frost, which I don't understand. So what about how's the DK world going on your end in there?
Alliance versus Horde is a large thing in the DK world. I'm curious, before I chime in on Death Knights though, Willie, what are the classes you guys are seeing perform well in the PTR so far, or in this raid so far, at least early on?
I mean, Paladin's kind of king. It's just insane at tanking, healing. To be honest, like even from a DPS point of view, they bring a lot of utility and they bring salvation, freedom, DSAC, so many different things. Just a utility machine. Warlock, obviously, great to be playing a lock. You got 2 specs, which are both absolutely going off. DKs again, pretty much agree on all of the above. But there's pretty good class representation across the board, really.
Are there any classes
like everyone's
you think
doing
might have
pretty good.
not shined? Actually, is there anything that we didn't see too much representation, maybe from, or you didn't see do too well?
I feel like everyone did every
pretty
spec,
well.
Yeah, we saw Shamans were doing great. Shamans were doing fine.
I think Hunter didn't do the damage that I was looking for. They were more utility.
Agree.
Warrior, I really liked having one for commanding shout, but not because of their damage.
But for the extra HP.
Yeah. And Feral tanking didn't feel amazing.
Do you think that's because of no block and like the HP values aren't high enough to deal with that, or why do you think so?
I just think that healing a prop pally for prog is just the gold standard, because you have a get out of jail free card every 2 minutes. That is super valuable. And and every time it procs, you're like, well, that was a wipe with a warrior or whatever, and now it's not. And so that's nice.
I feel like it happens all the time in progression. At least in Ulduar this weekend, it was like and that's my Ardent. And you're like, all right, keep moving on with the fight. But that would have been that was it. That literally was death.
That's the thing. It's like on you're starting off an Algalon, you pull it, Ardent procs instantly, and you're like,
that happened a lot.
Yeah, it does. Like healer's like, oh crap, we've pulled. Like the boss just deletes your tank instantly.
Yeah.
And that's why Guardian Spirits do it. It turns out giving any of a tank Ardent is kind of good.
Yeah, right.
And the passive damage mitigation. What is it, like 20% less damage again below 35% health or something?
I can't remember. I gotta look at it.
There's definitely some passive mitigation on it too, which Blood has that too, but Guardian and Prot Warriors don't.
I actually didn't see that many
flat.
Blood DKs. I haven't seen that many logs or VODs of Blood DKs main tanking in here yet. And it's not necessarily the most often used tank right now in the game. And they scale really well, but I haven't seen that many in there yet with like Nax gear. Have you guys seen or felt how they're performing yet?
We had our DK, but it couldn't get any instants half of the time, so I can't really say. But
There's some logs.
in theory, they're good,
for...
right? They bring a lot of buffs and debuffs. They have Hysteria or Unholy Frenzy. Nowadays,
Yeah.
there's
You can't say that.
Yeah, true.
Here's some logs from our full clears.
Different word now.
So you can see DKs and DHs and DKs and whatnot. If you want to see DKs, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like for every guild and everyone clearing right now, Pally Stonk's way up. Like, if you're getting towards the later phases, that DSAC is so good. And then Algalon, it's almost every kill so far has 6. I think every kill so far is running 6 Paladins that we've seen. So 6 Paladins, that's a lot of DSACs. And even if they don't all have it, you have Hand of Sacrifice. You have a lot of things, right? Warlocks are looking phenomenal. You can bring a ton of them, and they have a lot of utility. They have some self-sustain, and they just like can output crazy damage throughout all the fights. And Death Knights are, yes, like what you guys are saying, right, are doing so well. And Unholy, as fights get shorter, Unholy just like, as we get the gear scaling in this phase is so crazy for so many specs. Like, everyone gets so much gear, and this phase with the eye level buffs, we're going to see some crazy DPS numbers as we like are then able to eventually drop healers and kill bosses faster and not worry about the entire time. Right now it's like, let's not die, let's get the kill, right? And that's never in the history of Classic been the focus before. It's like, all right, what are the better ways of killing this? What's faster to kill this? Now it's like, let's get the kill right now. Let's get the kill. Let's make it through.
Yeah, it's funny. You're going to be celebrating killing the boss first and getting the loot second. Not just saying what dropped, you know? So at the moment, it's just like you beat KT up and you hope for weapons. Or
I think just to circle around to the DK thing as tank 2, it's really solid when you only need one tank and your prop pally's tanking, and your DK can go Frost or Unholy, right? Because DK DPS is so strong, and so having that tank able to do top tier damage when he's not tanking it's so much more than a feral or a warrior can do as a tank too. Sorry, Olive.
You hear that feral DPS? You hear feral DPS crying behind us?
She's sad. Morgan's whatever.
It's that feral DPS, bro.
So I still would love like a DK tank as my tank 2 generally for almost every raid except first clear, right? But the first clear scenario, all you're doing is don't wipe. Don't wipe. And the prop pally is just the king of don't wipe. So.
What are you feeling like you're bringing to what are you bringing then to this first raid as your tank team?
Oh, I don't know yet. We've got a month or some to figure it out, but and again, it's player over class, right? I mean, you got to take into account who had the experience, who knows the fights, who has the mindset, who's
not dying.
Just a lot of that,
right?
And so it's like an individual responsibility, and can you trust them to do just a ton of things. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be hard, gentlemen. Buckle the fuck up. Buckle up. Get your learning pants on. Watch some Joardee's guides and whoever else makes them, because it's gonna be rough in there. It's one of those fights where you have 25 people in there. You lost 1 DPS, you're gonna wipe. You lost 1 healer, you're gonna wipe. Maybe not 1 DPS because you can B-res them, but your B-res is down, you're fucked. Now you're wiping. Oh, your priest died, wipe. Your tank died, wipe. It's like
I think that something that like Crix, you do like parsing guides for casters, right? And I think that a huge part of this phase in those guides will be, hey, you need to do this to parse and survive. And like that'll be a huge factor in those guides for DPS, is like you need to do what you have to do while also doing damn, and this is what that looks like. And versus just like this is the best rotation for this fight. I think there's so much more going into each one that needs to be thought about. And like in a regular boss guide, you can't cover everyone's job. Like I try to throw those at the end of the guides where it's like things for healers to think about, things for DPS to think about. But there's so much more than I can cover in one thing now. So it's like that I think that's an opportunity for you guys to like help that out if you're looking for something.
The personal responsibility in the raid, yeah. It's not like now. It's actually funny because if and on that note, I was thinking about like I didn't ever release a parse guide for any of my classes for this version of Nax, and it's the first tier in all of Classic that I didn't put out like a guide on it because it was like get your snapshot, use your Gary, right? And or like just pretty much it's like use your CDs. There you go. Like this fight has cleave, this fight doesn't, everything. But you're never really worried about like when to use things. And now actually there's going to be a lot of nuance, something like XT, right? If you were going to go for the hard mode eventually, like right now you're tracking all of your ICDs. If you were, let's say at an unholy DK, right? It's the easiest way to describe it is that you're tracking all of your internal cooldowns of like, all right, Darkman Card Greatness is about to come off CD in 2 seconds. We're about to start the heart, right? In let's say 7 seconds. I'm actually, for the sake of being able to make sure I have Bloodlust during the heart and the heart coming down, I literally will turn around and not DPS right now. There's times where you're like, I need to hold off on doing something for like a couple seconds because we have the last boss on hard mode Iron Council coming up, and I'm about to proc all of my abilities, and we don't need to worry about a DPS race on the second boss. It's only about the last boss. So right now, there's some times where you're literally will like even for the parse, it's like let me not attack right now as an actual thing, so that all of your damage can come out all at once, which adds up so much stronger than if you were to like proc something like your helm and like or your greatness or something like 2 seconds before you would, and it would end 2 seconds before you would get the Bloodlust. That hurts you so much more, and timing out like DPS CDs for every class are going to be so crucial because there's also the bosses with like buffs you get, right? Like Thorim or Hodier, where you get the buffs and you're going to have to time out those as well and make sure that people are spreading.
I would not want to be Alondo on Hodier. That's going to be such a like that's going to suck.
Well, it's not. Just give him everything when he asks for it. It'll be easy.
He has a lot.
It's just the amount of resets. Is
when I say go, give me all that. That's what you do.
It's gonna be like
I think that Freya too. Freya's another one. Go ahead.
Go for that, Willie.
It's a bit of RNG in it. It's a bit of RNG in actually doing well on fights because sometimes you just you can't ignore the mechanics. You'll wipe pretty much.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get a lot of mechanics. On the PTR we had, I think we're doing the XT 10 match for example, and one of our mages got like 6 sparks in a row, and it's like, well, you're not playing the game. Like that's
just keep running out.
Yeah.
Just stay out there.
Run out. And they just stayed out, and then someone else got it. It's like, okay, fine. Just got
Freya's another one where it's like you start Freya, there's like a good 15-20 seconds before you don't need to be doing anything because the ads, right? She just heals up, and you'll see everybody run in there, blow everything, trinkets on cooldown, put everything on cooldown, and they're like, okay.
To be fair, Crix, and this is to Warcraft Log's credit, they're not gonna count any of your dam on her from that happened before she was healed to full. So as long as she's healing to full after you do damage to her, none of that damage you did mattered, which is
that's
brilliant because.
But people are still going to go in there because of the meters.
Yes.
Because remember, there's logs and then there's details.
Yeah, no, that's true.
There's people who don't give a fuck about logs. I don't care that I'm parsing 50s. Look at these fucking meters that I'm topping every night. Those are the guys who are cleaving on Iron Council.
That's why everyone in your guild is mad at you.
It's
those guys, and so those detail farmers, you are actually hurting your raid. In an example of Freya, in this example, you're hurting your raid by being greedy and not just waiting a couple seconds. And
if you proc everything on the start of Freya before, and then you get like the big ad, you're just like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? That's so
It helps so much, dude, because especially that big ad you're talking about because of the mushrooms that buff you. So now instead of you going under this mushrooms to blow up this big ad with no cooldowns versus going in there with all my cooldowns and Dying Curse and whatever else because I saved them. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of times like that. And I think it's one of those things where you have to listen to your raid leader, bro, over and over again. Get used to your raid leader's voice or whoever's in charge of yelling at you guys, and get ready to take a yelling, bro. Just if you fuck up, just take that shit, take that whip to the back and keep going, dog. You know what I mean? People make mistakes. Get over it and keep pushing. Don't get all attitude-y. I fucking didn't know the beam was there. And you guys are yelling at each other and shit. Just like, hey, it's a new raid. It's going to be hard. You'll get past it. You know, but I think one thing that I'm worried about is guild breaking. I think this is going to be guild breakers. I think many of these fights are going to be guild breakers. And I think one of the biggest things about that is the battle between guilds that have like half the people that, you know, yeah, hey, we're not worried about hard mode, but we do have like 6 people who are like, hey, wait a minute, we can do hard mode. Like, let's just go mash our face into there over and over until we get it. And they leave. And then, so I'm kind of worried about the guild. Like the guild
What do you think are the fights that are guild breaking? What fights are guild breaking? In particular,
the hard modes.
Every hard mode?
I don't think. No. Well, I mean, XT you don't really need, but like Iron Council, I think that's going to be tilting for a lot of people because especially if you're doing a hard mode, bro. Do you still? It's literally you're on Steelbreaker and I'm staring at the HP of the boss and I'm just hoping it doesn't go back up. Just nobody die. We're just staring at the boss. Nobody dies. Boss has 50 health, literally 500 health, literally. A sneeze would kill him. Someone dies.
Yeah, that's really
Steelbreaker's healed up. It's the most tilted thing ever. And it's before that. If they want to go try XD hard mode, go ahead and break your guild on that if you want to. I wouldn't suggest it, but that's going to be a hard one too because it's simple things that kill people, and simple things that kill people piss raid leaders off the most. And whatever happens to raid leaders, and when they get mad at one person, and all of a sudden there's an ego where it's like, oh, this fucking grown ass man can't yell at me type shit. And then we've seen this happen all over again, bro. It's on retail now. It's here.
WillE, for your guild, how much experience or preparation do you guys have going into each fight? Like for PTR, was there any where you're just like, hey, let's just go in and try it, or like what was planned ahead?
Basically, we just talk about the fight before we get there, and then go and give it a go. I think it's just mainly about getting people a little bit used to it ahead of actually going in when it goes live. But yeah, it wasn't like an insane amount of preparation. Like, we're gonna try and get everything absolutely perfect beforehand. We've got like assigns and everything. It's just we just go and do the fight, have a quick talk about the tactics, and then see the fight kind of thing.
Yeah,
so it's like a really early look.
I think that was so helpful. Like the golden thing about the PTR is it's for Blizzard. It's obviously us testing out like bugs, which the first day was incredibly buggy, as we all know. But for Blizzard, it helps them like any beta or alpha, really, right, with testing out bugs. But for guilds, it's such a great way to take advantage of seeing these fights when you have like seeing these fights significantly early. And that's like even like with what we talked about with doing 10-mans, where you see the fight and you understand what's going to go on, because your raid leader can describe it to you, and you can watch like a tank spot guide right now before you make all of your guides. But like it's almost more confusing at first, right? Because it's just talking really fast, and you're not like seeing exactly what this mechanic is. And they're like, make sure you dodge this beam that's going to come out. And you're like, wait, where is the beam? And then it does. And then like when you die to it once, the green beams, right? Like you probably know now, all right, now I need to watch out for that, right? Like, okay, now it's very like key. And then before, like having assignments, I think it'll be easy because there's going to be like a lot of spreadsheets out there, and our boy Cosmo is making a phenomenal one with like incredible assignments where every guild will be able to just literally write in the assigns for things. So it'll make things really easy. But right now, just having the experience kind of fighting any of the fights, experience in the raid, I think is essentially invaluable. Yeah, because like the second time you do things, it's easy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in guides, they can only do so much. Like on Iron Council, will guides say he's going to do Rune of Power and then Rune of Death. And if Rune of Power's up and he hasn't Rune of Death yet, don't run into Rune of Power, because he's probably going to spawn it on there and your whole raid's going to lose half the health in a few seconds. Or on Algalon, most guides would say the stars explode, healers heal. They don't say the stars explode on top of you, and you get teleported to a different realm when you get instantly killed. It's just small things like that occasionally may be missed off, which people won't realize it happens that way until they actually experience it. It's just the general pacing of the fight, and as well, like we're talking about before, DPS cooldowns and when things should be used will come into it, because on progression fights, and this is something which again happens on retail progression fights, you start to notice things happening around the same time. So for me on Iron Council, for example, the I think it was the second rune of power came up alongside the first doom ticking for me, and that's just something I noticed. So I was always thinking about refreshing it then. I was like, have we done enough damage where I can just put doom on the second boss instead of the first one, or whatever else it may be. But it's just noticing those things repeatedly happen and sort of how you can improve on it and make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that all comes from experience, right? It's like just going in.
There's also 14 fucking bosses in here, and that's a lot of mechanics to absorb, right? And so until things are just second nature and you understand, it's going to take a long time to learn, because there's a lot of learning, and we're old. Our brains are rocks. It's hard to get shit in there. So it's like, it's going to take some time, and that's okay. It's just like, I don't know. Be nice to each other. I tilted a couple times.
The dad part of gaming is full out with us right now.
Yeah. And I just, I don't know. I'm going to say it a couple times in the boss guys, but it's just like, be nice to each other, because
it's easy to feel, bro. It's easy to get mad.
It's so easy to tilt, dude.
It's very easy to tilt.
You're still nice to them then.
Yeah, it's easy to tilt DPS too, because you're trying your hard. You're not trying to fucking die, right? Obviously, you're just trying to do damage and fucking stay out of shit, and then you clip from the left and you're mad because you're getting yelled at, then you're mad at yourself, then you're just like, fucking, I hate this game.
Yeah, and having these assignment sheets from Cosmo or whoever's going to do them is going to be crucial. And he's doing a great job already of getting things sorted.
He's working on that day and night too. He
really
like
should
2 in the morning
charge.
last night.
He really should charge for these. I don't know why he doesn't charge like $10, but whatever.
Literally, it was 2 a.m. last night, and I was like, all right, I need to hop off. And he's like, yeah, I'm just making sure that, like, he literally was making, because on top of all of the assignments and making sure everything's correct, he was also making sure that none of the images or like any of the positioning or anything was anything anyone's used before. Everything is all created and very clear that, like, and it was like, damn, so much effort, and it's awesome. So it's going to be very helpful to have something like that.
Question. Once we're a month or so in, can we have a paladin tank with another tank for Algalon, do you think?
A paladin tank with not a second paladin tank?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys were doing it, weren't you?
You can do that week 1. I feel like week 1 you really want to stack the cards in your favor, and if you have a second paladin tank willing to do it, then do it. But yes, I think with a little bit of gear, you absolutely can run a non-paladin tank on Algalon.
Cool.
But if I were you, I would try to find a second pally tank for Algalon week 1, because you only have an hour, and you have
literally just 1 hour,
everything to go your way.
There's no reason not to stack your raid the way you want it to.
I'm telling you right now, if you didn't spend a fuck ton of time on Algalon at PTR, you're not going to get Algalon week 1 unless they nerf him. I'm telling you right now, and that's going to be okay, and you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
When you do get Algalon, though, his entire drop table is hard mode, so that is like the big payoff loot wise. All the other hard mode bosses, it's like 1 extra bit of loot, right?
Yeah, Algalon's dropping just all
Algalon
of the juice, dude.
The
it's
whole
so good.
loot table. So that is like the big payoff.
And Algalon 10 also is like another thing where you're going to want to be conscious of, like, knowing the fight at least, because even there, right, you only have it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier. Oh my gosh. And like pugs will be able to do it, but you're going to want to understand your assignments and understand the mechanics, because again, you only have an hour, and every wipe, literally every wipe on Algalon costs you time. Having wipe protection, like DIs and stuff, if you know you're going down, is a lot of time that can be saved on getting in and doing another attempt.
Yeah, wipe recovery is a real skill, which guilds will have to learn, like how to, just for bosses in general, you'll lose ages and ages each raid night if you wipe slowly. Or if,
Yeah.
of course, the wipe happens and people just mess about. It's like, just hurry up and die. Come on, we need to go again. Or if, like
that's the worst.
soul stoning people in advance. It's going to be another thing which you're going to be doing before every boss fight.
Mhm.
And I kind of starting to hate shards. Why they capped at 32? Is like, is
Especially
there
his
any way
demo,
around
huh?
this?
Hey, especially his demo, huh? Fucking
Yeah.
sucks his demo. Lucky they had the shards on the
terrible.
vendor.
Like, you know what? If they had a shard vendor, is that there's changes in the game already? That'd be fine, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
throw me a
definitely,
shard
you were
vendor.
chewing through shards. This demo is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
one raid night I had to go back and buy twice.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Oh
if you're
yeah.
if you're trying hard and you're like sniping and shit, you're really running out of shards, bro. Pretty crazy.
I think that
But yeah, like pre-sharding
Sorry.
and soul well each full. I guess the affliction can do so well.
Mhm.
for your 10 mans, you're gonna want a 3 heal Algalon. So keep that in mind when you're forming your groups, because you're gonna want to 2 heal most everything, but Algalon you are gonna want a 3 heal and have that flex DPS like you're like an enhancement shaman or whatever, be able to go resto for that fight, because and you only have an hour. And so you were saying pugs are going to be able to do Algalon 10. I don't think they're going to. That's really
Not
a hard
early,
fight.
well, maybe not early on.
Maybe down the line, yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but you need it, like, if you want to get it, you need to be very coordinated, right? Like even
Yeah.
on 10, it's just a very, very like assignment heavy, coordinated, and you're so you know your job for everything. You know what, like, at what percentage or what time you're using every ability. But then there's so much RNG with like where are these stars, where are the collapsing stars falling, right? Like where is he dropping the smashes? There's so much going on in that fight that, like, yeah, like you were saying, if you didn't put in time fighting him, that's the one where like this was the only, or like on PTR is the only time you'll have like extended amounts of time to actually keep fighting him, right? And keep practicing and learn and be like, oh, if we do this better, we can do this. The only thing that helps you is gear.
I feel like I cheated a little bit doing all that Algalon prog that other people who aren't on PTR aren't going to be able to do, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
If they won't have to deal with the floor looking like it is, so
that's potentially true. Did Blizzard say that? That's for sure. I mean there's going to be like weak auras or Leatrix by then,
or I mean proximity based weak auras or DBM things were phased out quite a while ago, so I think we still have to look out for them.
The floor is incredibly more clear.
Like if you go look at 2009, the world
this
first.
This is world first,
like,
yeah.
The floor is black. Our floor is like luminescent,
glowing
white.
To change it,
it's way too bright. It's making things exceptionally difficult to see.
Someone's going to come up with something that's going to
right?
change all of that. I guarantee someone's going to.
I read somewhere that someone was saying that they changed the floor for like a week by accident on back in the day, and then they changed it back, and that this is that 1 week of accidental floor that we're.
Really?
This is worse to me.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
I can't see the Reddit. I won't be able to see that the cosmic at all here.
I don't have any confirmation that is the truth, but that's
because of color blindness. Can you not see this?
I can see that. Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, you can see it way better. You're right.
Yeah,
it's way better like that.
Yeah, there's just it's a lot more contrast.
It is, I guess, kind of cheating a bit because this isn't how the fight should be. You don't get infinite attempts at Algalon. This is why it's meant to be hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just going to go spend a dozen hours on it, and I know the fight now, so I'm probably going to be able to clear it week 1. But
even if spending all that time, I don't know if we will be able to clear it week 1. And we didn't get it, and we spent 4-5 hours on it yesterday. So
and that wasn't even the first day.
Next day, yeah, 3 the
yeah, and I think your average pull count will be between 50 and 60 to get it. I think we were around 50 and we were close. So it's like, I don't know. It's a rowdy fight. It's a lot of fun.
One thing, if Blizzard didn't test it, like they didn't test the last boss in the latest raid on retail on Mythic.
Mm-hmm.
They tend not to do that, so people don't know everything.
Know it.
Can you imagine if they did that with Ulduar?
Oh,
Yeah,
this
if
fight
it
would
was
be
Algalon,
crazy,
it's like,
dude.
yeah, we ain't
This fight-
testing it. Good
No
luck.
one
I
would,
wish they did
would
that,
kill
bro.
this week one. Literally,
wish-
no one would kill this week one.
Nobody would
I'd
kill
say
Yogg.
very
before,
few, if
Oh
any,
yeah,
yeah.
eventually maybe.
Like there'll be a handful in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Because
Right.
I don't know of any guild that was even able to kill this within a 1 hour time limit. And there is only, I only know of, I don't know, you might know of more now. There was only 3 that I had heard of yesterday that were able to get this down.
I think I heard 4, but there were a couple that I suspected that were saying that they didn't, but did. So I don't know, we'll see.
A lot of people said they cleared everything, but they every time I'd be like, "Oh, you guys finally killed Yogg. We killed it last night." I'm like, "Log? Oh yeah, it's private.
Cosmic Smash, great.
It's private. It's private logs. It's private logs," as everybody says, but nobody wants to fucking. Everybody who claims they've cleared it never won't show us anything about it. You know.
Well, that's part of this competitive advantage, this flair. That's one thing
Well,
that,
they're
that
lying.
you,
It's just
you
a bunch
guys
of
do
bullshit.
more than almost any other guild is Fusion as a guild streams the entirety of these PTR practices, and I think that's
The community.
really commendable, because a lot of people get to see what the fights are like and how guilds are dealing with learning how to deal with the encounters, because you have comms, right? And then you're like, oh, well, what if we try using these CDs here, these CDs here? Especially with Joardee is part of like coming up with the strategies quite often. So I think that's really helpful for guilds to see, or for people to see, like how one of the world's top guilds decides to deal with these hard encounters.
Yeah, we're not gonna get world first ever, but we're gonna have fun gaming and learning together, and hopefully we can invite everyone in to learn with us, because I think we're pretty inclusive with how we play the game, or try to be at least. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go to the Yogg kill, because that's, I don't know, that I'm really proud of that kill. The phase 3 is just this like beautiful dance of fun and
Trying to get them before you're overwhelmed.
yeah, and when you finally do get it, it's so rewarding, and you just hate his fucking voice lines by now. Like, ugh,
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And then after you get it the first week, you wipe on it dozens of times. You go in next week, you'll kill it in a few attempts and be like, "How is this that difficult?"
yeah. Well, you won't do Yogg 0 after like the first few times, right? Because it's just like what's the point? This is awful. Yogg 1 phase 3 is you've won. Like the fight's over, and the amount of times we got to phase 3 and fucked up was like half the pulls. So it's like we would have killed him 40 pulls ago or more if we, so
if we just had someone dealing with these ads.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, so 3 people taunted that shit out in perfect unison. He fires the balls. It's like, oh, it's kick ass, and then everybody runs back in. Oh, it's so cool.
The coordination of getting low, of bop AoE taunts, of random taunts pulling out, hunters doing it, everyone making sure they have a taunt on a new mob, like target dummies being useful. I'm glad Blizzard put target dummies on the vendors, but everyone would have transferred
Almost
them
like
over.
They knew.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
Right.
one of the most clutch consumables in the game.
Even at
right?
one point, meta taunted type shit. Like we were trying everything at one point.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
gonna have Crix taunt and then bop him, and we'd stop with that, but it was in the toolkit. There's a ton of stuff you can do here. So here's the 5 one. This is the hardest part. Where at 5 people have to taunt that shit out. The balls go out. Yogg doesn't get hit by it.
Finding a good middle ground of killing the ads and single target.
And
Like, not too
now
much
shit
AoE.
is like absolutely hitting the fan right now. This is your butt puckered. You're just fucked. Like you're just trying to survive. Please don't wipe. Please don't wipe. Tanks don't die. Tanks don't die. You can see they're on dummies. Things are going crazy.
Baron boots out.
Baron's like, fuck this. I'm out of here. And he's gone.
Takes all the ads with him.
And now everyone's like, holy shit, we're doing it. Turn, kill the boss. And
Boss
then
dies at like what, 500k, right? Or 150?
1.5%, I think. Yeah.
5 just now. 8.
Yeah.
So fun. So fun.
Yeah, that kill, like your face when you guys got that kill, literally watching that was like, it's going to be so crazy to see all of the guilds that have this crazy progression. And I think that's it's weird to see that like PTR is this progression. We won't see it so much in like when on Race to World First for a lot of like for the Race to World First guilds, whereas on PTR this is where we for now is at least see this version of progression for a lot of top guilds, is like seeing this joy of their first time getting the kills, because by the time we do fight see Race to World First, we will have like people will have it like very, very ironed out. At least the top guilds will have practiced in every way possible, and make things as Blizz-like as possible, right? So that joy, that feeling of progression, and that's something that like I think like really you're gonna get to experience a lot more than, because they've now done, but like on live realms, right? And a lot of guilds will get to experience on the live realms, is that joy of like finally getting them.
I mean, doing the Ulduar PTR, it's made me realize that I've missed progression raiding.
Yeah,
because there's been a little bit of it here and there, but it's majority of raids. It's they just haven't been very difficult, and you just kind of go through them, and you don't really have to try super hard. Even on like some of the more difficult fights, you can kind of just coast through a little bit. But no, in the current iterations, at least with tier 7 gear, there's going to be some proper progression for like everyone, pretty much. It's literally everyone. I mean, the world first guilds that PTR testing now, that's their progression. They're doing it in advance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just how they work. But everyone will progress on these fights if they go live in this state. Just depending on, you know, how much of a gap the gear actually covers. Because I think a lot of the more difficult fights, I kind of just want to say more gear, more numbers solve everything, and many of the fights aren't mechanically challenging.
Like Iron
mechanics
Council
just seem very tightly tuned. Yeah, like Iron Council, if you did more damage, the fight's going to actually be pretty easy. XT, more damage, fight's easy. They're not super mechanically challenging.
More damage, you don't die. Also, you have like more HP. Like the level of the gear, like every fight, every week, everything will get significantly easier, right? Every week it'll get easier and easier, and even with like the experience is probably the best thing, but the gear is at this like level now where it like helps it's not outweighing experience of fighting the fights, but it helps, right? Like for guilds that went in and did like second full clears, right? It took like what 4 hours to full clear up to Algalon for your second attempt, Joardee?
I don't know. I have to look back. We wiped a bunch, but yeah, it'll be fast-ish once you're.
It's like 3 hours back to Yogg, and then we prog Yogged.
Yeah, think about it alongside when I've done, mythic raiding in retail. Even when you're reprogressing some fights, there are still some mechanically challenging encounters where if you do something wrong, you just kind of die, and you kill the rest of the raid at the same time. Like if you push something too early, if you, I don't know, get hit by a mechanic and don't handle it right, or you don't run something out of line of sight. And there is a less of that in Ulduar. So I think the gear will come in clutch. Like people will start improving on these quite rapidly.
Do you think, WillE? Because I already know what Joardee and Sarthe think. Do you think they're going to nerf it, or that they should? 25
no, I think they've come up with a plan. They said we're going to do it pre-nerf, we're going to do it on its hardest version, and we're going to buff gear because it's going to be hard. And I think they're going to follow through and say, with the belief that the gear will carry us through the more difficult fight. So I don't think they're going to nerf it.
I have a good question. Do you think the community, how do you think the community is going to respond after like week 1, right? Like, do you think like there's going to be a lot of like guild breakers or outrage, or is there going to be this excitement for hard content?
I kind of question how much people who have been consistently raiding in Classic want hard content. And it's not been what the game's about ever. If I'm honest, it's just, I mean, at one hand you could say if you want hard content, go raid retail, but raiding's like one part of the game. It's an MMO. There's like a dozen different things you could want to play this game for. I think there's going to be a lot of guilds who call themselves like semi-hardcore and are going to have people getting frustrated because there's certain individuals making mistakes consistently. And I think there's going to be a lot of guild drama and people just not pushing what they should be doing and performing up to scratch. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Joardee?
About nerfing it?
About like how the community, not about nerfing it, how the community, what do you think the community is gonna respond in general, right? Like, do you think this outcry for harder content is gonna be well received?
I think you can look at retail as a guide for how people respond to harder stuff. There are those that gravitate towards the mythic stuff. There are those that are okay with doing heroic and normals, and people end up, self selecting which group that they're going to fall into, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Part of
the good thing, because then you have the heroics or hard mode and normal. Yeah,
I think that when you talk to people about SSC and TK, and you talk to them about pre-nerf, post-nerf, Vosh, and KT, I think the average opinion is, I wish I had more time to get pre-nerf Vosh before they nerfed it. And I think that on the whole, that will be the type of thing that it's like, okay, we're cool with it being hard, because once we do get it, that sense of accomplishment is all the better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus like the nerfs ruining your chance at that achievement that you were shooting for. And so I don't know, I think it'll be fine. There's going to be a bunch of idiots on Reddit who are mad about how difficult it is because they can't do it, and I only call them idiots because they're not understanding the context of the challenge. Not that they're bad at the game, it's just things can be hard, and that's okay. And hard is fun.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it the hard ways, right? Like Yogg,
yeah,
like you were saying, like Yogg 1 is insanely easier because you don't have to deal with that hardest, like the last phase.
Or Yogg 4 is like one of the easier fights in there, and like you get a sanity well, you get a get out of jail free card, you get 40% more damage, you get a ton of shit, and it's a totally epic fight where there's a ton of things going on, and there's tentacles everywhere, and there's beams, and there's the brain room, and it's just super fun, and that's okay. So
don't nerf the game. Just leave it as it is. If you feel, in my opinion, and this might be scumbaggery, but if you can't kill hard mode, then well, you need to fucking figure it out. Leave us something difficult-ish. You know what I mean? Because eventually it's not going to be difficult. I don't know how TOGC was back in the day. I don't know how ICC was back in the day. I don't know how hard those are going to be, but everyone knows that Ulduar hard mode was supposed to be like, earn it. So just let us earn it. And just let people earn it for a month or two. If people are still struggling, then do whatever, but don't touch this right now. Just let it be. It's cool.
I think it's
vibe, and make them earn it. Make them go through the gear progression. It's supposed to be 10-man normal, 10-man hard, 25-man normal, 25-man hard. That's how it's supposed to go. You're not supposed to go straight into hard modes like everyone wants to do. Not everybody can do it. You just got to accept that and then go through the gear progress. Progression is the word.
Mm-hmm. Go for it, WillE.
Yeah, I think it is important that they communicate in advance. They did it with Tier 5. They said we're going to have Tier 5 a few months ahead, a few weeks ahead of them doing it.
Yeah.
This happens in retail. You're progressing on a mythic boss for hundreds of attempts, and they say we're going to nerf it in 2 weeks, and it's like we've got 2 weeks to kill it. And it's happened to me before. I missed the 2 week window. You go in for a fight you've been wiping on for literally weeks, and you kill it in 3 attempts. That was Mythic Jaina.
Oh, feels bad. And you're like,
now
it's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, it was easy. And I always remember the kill I got I respect as well, because it's like we didn't need as much ad damage, and I did awfully. I got like a grey pass and we killed it, and it was easy. And I was like, well, do better next year, I guess.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Just on that point is like literally, so back in Tier 5 I raided I was raid leading a guild that was on Vosh progression, and we got it like 3 weeks before, and it was like a very very casual guild, right? Like people don't bring consumables, not everyone's enchanted. It was very very casual, right? But like we're trying to like make sure that we can do the mechanics, so I'm trying to like make all the call outs because it's with friends. And we got it before it ended, and that feeling was a really good, like, this awesome progression. We did this, we made this achievement together, we got through it. And then like a couple weeks later, when you're fighting that fight, or even fighting like Kel'Thas, I remember the first day fighting Kel'Thas after the nerf, and you kill the ads in like 6 seconds, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
I
have like
was
50k
shocked.
health or something.
yeah, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I did not mean to do that. Like,
I mean, they got absolutely hammered with a nerf bat. I'm sure that'll happen with Ulduar, by the way.
yeah.
Eventually.
But our version of that now is the choice to either do the hard modes. Like, you can be like, are we going to put our time into these hard modes? It does reward you with better loot, but you can get through the fights on normal. And I think a lot of guilds will be able to like learn and try to use time wisely to get through fights on normal, so that next week, one, you have more loot, but two, just like the experience too. So you'll be like, oh, this is what's added to these new mechanics. Because adding 10 mechanics at one time, like the first time doing Firefighter, it was traditionally thought of as like one of the hardest hard modes, but realistically it's one of the easier ones. It's just coordination. And that's the thing. It's like learning and seeing the mechanics and understanding how it all works.
Yeah, I think
Helps a
setting
lot.
expectations for guild members would be good. As in, week 1 we plan to do this. We'll see how far we get doing that. Week 2 we plan to do this. So people aren't like, why aren't we doing hard modes? They've got better gear. Let's do hard modes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should definitely start with the 10-man normals and 10-man hard modes, and then 25-man, and work your way up, kind of thing.
Felipe says people want to roll in the raid without half optimized enchants, gems, consume specs, comp, and assigns no assignments to an organization to expect to clear everything. Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it's gonna come from. And there's one place that you guys can go that literally will solve all these, and it's Joardee's fucking YouTube. I'm sure any day now he'll have his first boss guide out. I know we're all waiting and anticipating,
That's fast.
but we know one's coming soon.
I'm doing boss guides. Yeah, I don't know when. I'm going on vacation for a while soon, so
Imagine having a life, dude. Where are you going? Tell everybody so we can find you.
Word boss guide.
I'm going to Colorado.
Yep. For what?
Are you going boarding?
I don't do sports.
I knew you were gonna say that. God damn.
I'm an
it.
LA kid, sir.
I know, dude.
It's so cold out. It's gonna be so cold. But no, the boss guides will be like, I think I'm gonna do Iron Council first, and then the Keepers, and then Yogg, because those are kind of the big ones, and then go from there. So I'll go out of order, but yeah, they're coming. I'm gonna try to get a couple done before I leave, and then I'll write all the scripts for all of them in Colorado, and then get as much done there as I can. But I'm not gonna be able to finish them until that first week of January. So
Always
you
good
won't
to do
be
those.
boarding.
It's always good to do those big ones first, because then you can get they're the harder ones to do. They're the ones everybody wants to watch the most. So you can just get them out of the way, you know.
yeah, and I think I'm gonna do. I mean, I don't want to take up you guys' time thinking about this, but I think I'm gonna do normal mode and hard mode guides separately. I don't know.
I
We'll
think
see.
so.
I don't envy you, bro. I this is the season in TBC.
I
I,
mean,
made the raid
come
guys, and
on,
I
it's
hated it, dude. I despised it. Every time a raid would come out, I'm like,
This
I mean,
is
dude,
the
the
first
fact
time
that the
it's super
community
exciting, I
is
think.
excited about it is really humbling and exciting, and I'm just grateful that people are interested. So we'll see.
Yeah. Willie, what with that, like, because that's what Joardee's going to be really focused on. What are you going to be focused on? If you, are there anything in particular you're looking forward to working on content wise moving into phase 2?
I think I've done quite that. I tend to do stuff in advance, but I've never really been a boss guide person. Because I usually don't even PTR stuff, to be honest, and I don't remember how they work back in the day, and I haven't played private servers, so why would I start making guides about them? I'd just be trying to read other people's guides and put them in my own words, and that's I want to experience it properly, so I can, you know, give first-hand experience on everything. But yeah, I'm not about to do any boss guides or anything. I don't know, just the one video that I usually do is 2 weeks after a raid has come out. I try and do some like review on how many people have cleared it, how many people are wiping on what boss, what kill percentage, or like percentage people kill a boss compared to how many times they pull it, how many times people have wiped, I don't know, I might do something about which classes are doing best and stuff like that. Just generally going through Warcraft logs, looking at the numbers, and hopefully making something interesting.
Willie, I'm always super impressed by your ability to predict what I'm thinking the moment I realize I have that thought. Like there are times where I'm like, I wonder if this is like going to be a thing, and then like an hour later you have a video on it, and
It's magic.
that is like a really amazing talent that because like I just like don't think that far ahead of like, and you are thinking there, and then the second I think other people are likely thinking those things at the same time I am, and then there's your video on it, and so that's
which
really
means
cool.
you were working on it before that too, because then with the editing and the scripting and everything.
I mean, it's I kind of get into a trend to do it of videos that I do around raids and stuff. So I've been doing this since Classic came out, so you're sort of getting some trends of things that you want to do. But no, it is I do just try and break down the stats and make it interesting. I think Ulduar, by the way, is going to have like
the craziest stats,
lowest clear rate by such a big margin.
Yeah, it was like Sunwell.
I think tier 5 actually had less clears than Sunwell.
Because of the last bosses, yeah.
Yeah, because there's just there was more bosses, right? Sunwell was quite hard, but it was short. 6 bosses, wasn't it? It was tier 5.
Be hard until they nerf it, dog.
12 or 13
for a while.
Yeah, Ulduar, I'm fully expecting to be like Algalon, 1% of guilds out of the 10% of guilds even, were successful on it.
Yeah. I think it's
barely anyone
it's gonna
gets
be
it,
crazy.
barely anyone kills it.
I can't wait for GDKPs, dude. Oh my god.
The gold is going to be insane. The struggle is going to be crazy.
What is it? Thorim hard mode, right? One of the easier ones. He drops that melee trinket, right?
Yeah.
That's one they're getting a pass on, but I think most GDKPs, they're gonna just do. I mean, why not just do the easier content and guarantee that you're gonna get some gold in?
I think you're gonna like very target. Like I'm foreseeing like a lot of like very targeted which ones we're doing, which hard modes, or like which version of the hard modes too. It's like we're not doing the hardest one, but like we're doing the ones that like we get a little bit. Let's get some more loot, or like the bids are gonna be insane. There's gonna be like 10-man GDKPs. The crazy thing is, one thing I'm not looking forward to is gonna be 10-man hard reses. That's gonna be rampant. I think is like. Literally
just run your own
insanity.
groups.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm gonna hard res everything, but just seeing that is gonna be
everyone else's hard res groups are garbage, but mine are great.
It's so funny you say that right when someone in chat said, what did you say? What was it? Mo said, can't wait to watch
me leech.
Yeah, Sarthe's leeching senses are going haywire right now.
Dude, I run in like 6 GDKPs a week, right? And I've been known to spend very little gold. It is what it is.
Listen, that Shadowborn is not going to buy itself.
Bro, very little as in Turning Tide was like 7K week 1 or 2, dog.
I'm trying to buy a Valinir.
And then an hour later he goes, oh fuck, I forgot I actually could have bought that. I had gold this whole time. I was like, you're breaking my heart.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with the pug scene.
It's going to be gnarly.
Pugs just scene aren't clearing the end bosses ever, to be honest.
Yogg with full keepers,
unless it's like 9, unless you're saying pug, but it's actually like 80% of a guild on the rolls.
I think there are certain bosses you target hard mode, like you can do Thorim really easily.
Thorim and maybe Hodir if you have DPS, but
Hodir after some time. Freya's not too bad. Even Mimiron with the right cooldown planning is not bad, but Yogg 0 you don't do
ever.
For a really long time.
I mean, unless someone wants to buy the mount for 150k, 200k, or whatever, you're just not going to bother. And Vezax, I haven't actually done Vezax hard mode, but I mean that drops Voldrathar and Flare, right? So like that's a really high value time sync. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's like how much are you gonna get from it if the things drop versus just getting the clear.
What we should do is tell
early.
Laddie to start YouTubing and make a GDKP Ulduar primer guide of how to get your GDKPs off the ground for
Min-max.
Ulduar.
There's
Funny
gonna
you
be
say that.
so many that don't do like right now. People are running 20 GDK. Dude, I know people that their full job right now is just playing because they're running GDKPs and like Monk TOS. They're just making real world money from the gold that they're getting, right? And a lot of people are doing that though. Like, oh, there's a lot of GDKPs that are like 30 GDKPs a week. That's all they do, right? And that's not going to be necessarily the case. It's going to drop down. I mean, for at the beginning, everyone's going to be trying it, but I think it's gonna fall to like more of like honing things down at least a little bit. Or just knowing which bosses you're targeting early.
At the moment, it's GDKP just isn't a viable way to gear. It's a viable way to raid and see all the content.
Yeah,
totally.
As well, that won't remain true. I think there'll be a handful that will, because let's be real, there's real life money involved, so people are going to push to clear. That's just how it'll be.
Yeah,
like
people.
The first Sunwell. I forget what it was actually, but yeah, when there's money involved, people will find a way to make it happen. Because the payouts week 1 will be big numbers.
We've one Sunwell clears were hilarious.
See, all of our Twitch already
pre-sold our Valenier for a dumb amount.
How much is it? How much is it?
I'll DM it to you, but it's dumb.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen all of the GDKP discords are like starting the channels for Valenier, and you're just like, oh my god.
I think the healers have been sitting on their piles of gold.
What? How much is it going for now?
Yeah.
What are they talking about?
It's a lot.
It's like, I don't want to say it.
How much are they going for though? There was prices on Glaze. What are you afraid to say it for fucking Valenier? What do you mean? There's no 750K?
Yeah,
a million, 750K, 500K?
Over half a mil. Yeah, I'd say 750K is like a place that you're seeing a lot of, which then it makes me think about like Shadowmourne, and all of my leeching is all for one reason, guys, to not buy Shadowmourne because I can't afford it still.
Yeah, there's no way you're buying a Shadowmourn.
No shot.
Any of those EU GDKPs, those guys
they're unreal, dude.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get 24 viewers to carry you. Is how you're gonna have to do it.
That's possible. Hopefully, we'll see where we're at that point.
They're not dropping shards in 10 man, are they? For either.
No.
Sarthe is 100% buying a Shadowmourn.
I thought they'd change that, you know.
I think they confirmed that they weren't going to.
Because it's always been a thing where they've made things a little bit faster, like, I don't know, the tier set for PvP stuff in TBC, for example, but I'm kind of surprised they didn't find a way to do that.
Hey,
or,
Joardee.
I don't know, increase.
Did you guys see the buff on Valenier? It is juiced up.
Yeah, it's real good.
It is so
701 now, I think, is the number, which is huge.
Yeah. They buffed it to 258 eye level. So it will be like, it'll be stronger than pretty much everything, and it'll remain just like godly forever. 701, 52 haste. The haste and crit didn't go up much, but like the damage on it did, and the base stats also, the stamina and intellect went up by a lot, and then the spell power went up by like, I don't know, it was like 80 or something. It was like, this thing is gonna be
258 is same eye level as a New Barak mace, and it's better than that because of the equip shields. So you'll use this until I mean, you won't get trauma or whatever the last one off Lich King is first. If you have a Valenier, you'll get that last. So
that's Boomy Prow, right?
You will see a boomkin with it very quickly. I promise you. This game is dumb, and people are dumb, and they see orange and they want to buy it, and it is BIS for boom. Yeah, there's the fucking
literally Wowhead's picture is a boomkin wearing Valenier.
Yeah. I feel like the Wowhead mod is a boomkin player, probably.
That's so funny. Yeah, this is I'm curious what, I mean, it's relatively, it's very good for certain classes, like stronger generally. How do you guys feel towards, like, maybe not even just Valinir, but do you think there's going to be a lot of loot drama in this phase? I know you're working on a loot prio thing, Joardee, but starting with you, Willie, do you think there's going to be a lot of loot drama, or is the drama going to be more about bosses and the raids themselves?
Yeah, I think it'll be more on the bosses and actually progression and how fast you're killing stuff rather than the loot per se. I think there's definitely some big ticket items in there. I mean, there always is, and they've got their item levels increased. But I think people care more about just killing it on hard mode to have a chance for the item to drop. Especially that goes doubly with Algalon, who's dropping like a full loot chest full of hard mode stuff. So, yeah, I think it's going to be more about killing stuff. But yeah, obviously, there's always people who care a lot about loot, and that's why they raid.
Yeah. Crix, what do you think is going to be the drama next phase?
I think it's gonna be deaths. If it's hard mode, it's gonna be like this is the first time. Well, I don't think it's the first time, but one of the first times that it's been very serious with the deaths, and you're gonna see people getting mad at each other. When remember, it's just a game, and you guys will get over it. You guys are besties. You know what I mean?
Drama Wednesdays.
A lot of drama. It's gonna be drama. A lot of people are gonna be dying, bro. People get mad, and the good players are gonna get mad at the bad players for dying. The bad players are gonna be mad because people are yelling at them because they're dying.
Yeah,
and then the bad players are gonna be mad at themselves for dying, bro.
We should do like a weekly drama clip roundup.
It's probably gonna be so good.
And just like get like 10 clips of people screaming at each other in Ulduar, and
it'd be hilarious.
And just talk about why. Yeah,
I think Sarthe would win with the Laddie. Though.
Oh my god,
he's got Laddie though. He would come with the best clips.
The amount of Lottie clips for next phase are, dude, I like, because so when there's like call outs from your PTRs and then Joardee adds them to like sound bites on stream, which are amazing and epic, like green beans. And then like if I were to do that, it would be so Monka2OS. Like it's
I want to get a Baron compilation. Just motherfucker, get out of that beam! Just in all accents of him yelling would be hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of that, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. But it's also gonna be sad because people are screaming at each other all the time. That sucks.
It's a fun thing though. People know it's not serious. It's just a game.
So what if we told a bunch of people to like send their clips in of their raids of them? I don't know. That'd be fun. It's like we sit around on a couch and just laugh at people.
That'd be super.
Yeah.
I literally have a couch behind me.
Watching,
you won't need to. They'll be on Reddit. 100%.
If you're listening or watching, you should send us your clips. Because it would be just like a round table. I know Winky has like F's in the chat, and he watches like all of the hardcore wipes. Like absolutely, just the rages. The clip channels are gonna pop off again. If only they were like financially viable still, dude. It would be like the time of the clip channels right now. Totally. Because we're about to have. Every guild is. Oh, we're in for a treat of.
Guys, it's rough. My guild has been testing on the PTR, and let me be the first to tell you that these raids are not safe. Okay, multiple people in our raid, as in more than one, have got physically ill from the stress due to these challenges. We had one guy who almost had to go to the hospital because their chest was beating so fast when we wiped for the 47th time. Okay, so buckle up. Thank you for whoever posted that. There's a copy paste that got spammed. I figured I'd read it.
It's that serious.
Yeah, it's gonna be stressful. I'm looking forward to it. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard, bro.
Yeah,
I'm ready for it though. It'll be fun to watch. It's gonna be fun to play. Also, I know we're all saying it's hard, but enjoy it too. Have fun. It's not gonna be hard forever.
It is legit the most fun raiding experience I've had in this game ever, and I don't play retail, so I don't have that to base off of. But up until now, progging this last week has been just an absolute blast, and I can't wait for you guys to get a shot at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a video game. You're gonna die in it, right? So get ready. This is how a raiding should be. You know, this is not how it should be.
I'm looking forward to getting back to progression raiding.
Yeah,
a little bit. And here's the thing: so Blizzard at the moment don't have any plans to do pre-nerf Trial of the Crusader or ICC. So is
I was
Ulduar
thinking about that.
just going to be head and shoulders above everything else?
And the gear
And
in
we're going to be
Ulduar.
looking back to it saying, "Oh, this is easy." Remember Ulduar week 1?
Well, was ICC? Was that
There was a
considered
nerf-
easier? I remember
Well,
ICC
eventually
being
you get a
hard
buff.
regardless.
They
Right,
gave like
but-
a static
but
buff
before
throughout.
that buff, or you could turn that buff off, right? Like,
I don't remember if you could.
The buff, it was released a few weeks, maybe a month or two after the raid released, and
Mhm.
it began at 5% bonus damage, less damage taken, absorbed,
Okay.
basically 5% everything. And each week after that, it ramped up a further 5% to 30%. And you
Oof.
could turn it on or off completely, but you couldn't amend it. Blizzard in the past for Classic have expressed interest in having the buff from the beginning, but you can pick the number it goes to. Which again, they said that a long time ago now. I'm just pulling that out of the air. I don't know what they'll do, whether they'll do that or not. But yeah, without the buff, I think it's still meant to be quite hard. But that is how it worked.
I just hope that they release heroic week 1 instead of normals week 1. That would bum me out. I want to go straight into the juice rather than
Straight into
you
who's
have to
getting
kill.
Lich King heroic world
You have to
first.
kill,
Let's go.
You have to kill Arthas on normal before you can do heroic still.
But I hope that they change that so you don't have to. Because like Sunwell
Yeah.
was gated back in the day, and they changed it for. So I don't know.
Was it
Yeah.
Ulduar gated back in the day? Or did it
I
all
don't think
release
so.
at once?
I don't
Yeah.
think it was. I think
Yeah.
it was just Sunwell and ICC for some reason.
They're just she's like basically last raids of the expansions. They're like, you don't get
Yeah,
it
I mean,
all.
if you look back at raiding through Wrath, they changed raiding every single tier. They did something
Yeah.
different. So I don't know how it all came out so well in the end. It's a bit of a mystery,
Right.
really.
No,
Also, I
normal
think they
raid,
should do.
hard modes
Sorry, go
and normal, and then the next time it's like, oh, and also actually we added an entire different one called heroic. Do all 4 of them. So yeah, they did change it. They did change things each time. Go for it, Joardee.
I think they should release Ruby Sanctum with TOGC and lower the eye level of all that gear, rather than release it after ICC.
As an entire phase.
Or not even as an entire phase, just like
Yeah.
throw it in with TOGC, because TOGC is pretty minimal. So if you add Ruby Sanctum, Oni, and TOGC in one phase, at least you're getting a bunch of different shit. And anything after Lich King, it's like, who cares, right? So if you release Ruby Sanctum earlier, at least you're getting some of that content then. And
It even fits in because you've got Ruby
Yeah.
Sanctum, that's dragons. Anixia, that's dragons. You just call a patch,
Blizzard, I'll take a
Dragon
check in the mail.
Land.
Thank you
There
very
you
much.
go.
Appreciate that.
throw them both together.
It wasn't my
they're
idea.
like-
I think it was some chatter in my thing from
Yeah.
weeks ago, but it's a great idea.
No, that's a phenomenal idea. And it just adds more content to that phase. That phase is gonna be the in-between phase of realistically, right? Like mentally, most people are gonna be waiting for the next phase. There's not like a late game in the current phases, right? Like late game in the phases, we have, or some people have things like speed runs, right? Where it's like you stay entertained at the end of the phase where you're no longer as much farming for gear. You're still pushing. There's some sort of like thing to look forward to every week is how much can this raid improve and such. But then for anyone that doesn't have that, like these later times in the phases right now, like Nax, like people are great time for Dragonflight, right? Good thing we had the Ulduar PTR, but that phase is going to be just bosses, right? That phase is TOGC is like you're just fighting bosses, and once you have the bosses on farm, that raid is done very short. Like for now, we're going to go back into Ulduar and farm like trinkets and items that because of the buffed eye levels, but yeah, having more content there and then not having an end 0.5 phase, you know, like 4.5 or 3.5, whatever, with Ruby Sanctum just coming out on its own. I think that's, scaling it down and changing it would just make the content more cohesive. And ending Lich King with Lich King feels good.
It'd make a few people mad because I think the trinkets are good, right, from Ruby Sanctum.
But they can still be
there's some
good.
great items.
They're just not as. I mean, like after you've killed Lich King, what do you need those trinkets for?
Yeah, what
Like,
are you
no
getting
one,
gear for?
like no one
at
gives
that
a shit,
point?
right? The game's over. You're waiting for
Bigger numbers,
kata.
I guess. That's
But
about it.
at least you can use your trinkets in ICC prog like that. That's rad. I don't know.
Do you think that mount's gonna go for something? Can the mount drop?
I mean, if they're 2-3-2 and 2-4-5, that's what an elixir is, right?
Mount could drop, right? Invincible.
Invincible?
That's the thing.
That's Lich King heroic.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah, that's you think. I don't know. I never did ICC. Is that like something you can sell somehow? Is that like?
Oh, if you can, yeah, when you
bananas,
get
right?
Lich King heroic GDKP is,
Would that be
which will
crazy?
be,
I don't know how impossible that mount is, but I know people still and people are still on retail farming that right now every week.
yeah. I don't remember if it's 100% drop chance before like moving into Cataclysm or whatever next phase, kind of like Mimron's head.
It's not 100% now. It's still a percent drop rate, right?
That's what
Yeah,
I don't remember.
To
I
this
don't
day.
remember now.
Oh, it's
It
100%
probably is.
heroic.
I mean, if Mimron's head is, it makes
It's
sense.
100%? Okay, yeah, okay. 100% prior to Kata. That's what,
prior to
yeah,
Kata
see,
was okay. So
just
that's why
like-
it's more okay.
yeah, because they do that a lot, right? Like with scaling things backwards. Once you're onto the next tier or the next expansion, obviously the things that were like 100% like titles, mounts, achievements with Nax, right? Like and they haven't. I don't know if they've announced if they're first officially gonna take away the mount and title, right, from completing the Nax achievements. But back in the day, after Nax, you weren't able to do that, and the other ones you were able to go back and farm those mounts, like the Glory of the Raider ones. So I'm curious if they're gonna do that, or if people will feel gate kept, I guess.
I think Invincible's going to drop week 1. And I'm going to win the rule. So
We're gonna G-bit it, by the way. So
I'm not going to win it then.
Then Jordy's gonna win it.
I'm not
I
gonna
don't
win
pay
it.
for
Jordy,
anything.
4 ashes of Alar over here.
I'm
yeah, I'm going to
happy-
say we remember Jordal.
I'm happy with ashes. I don't know. We G-bid the mounts off the last bosses because loot canceling it seems dumb and everyone likes gold. So
Are you still using
Yeah.
ashes right now?
on my dwarf, yeah, and my
Yeah.
my goat hunter, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. What is okay? But as we're wrapping things up a little bit, I'm curious. What are your guys' favorite mounts in the game? Just random tangent, but because Joardee has ashes, favorite mount in the game. Willie, go.
Okay, so I mean, dragon riding's better than any mount that's ever existed. It's an amazing
Yes,
feature, but-
actually.
so any dragon riding mount. Sorry to say it, but it's true.
Oh, it's
But if
crazy.
we're talking about pre-Dragonflight stuff, Invincible.
So it
I'm
actually is.
Invincible
You
and
really
enjoy it.
want Invincible, yeah. Do you have it?
I
in
mean,
retail?
yeah. I mean, we're going to be doing plenty of clears, I'm sure. So just
Yeah.
throw on my way. That'd be great.
I'll just swoop one of those. Crix.
On retail, it was that Nightbane mount because I had it. I was obsessed with it before like Classic came back, and then now in Classic wise, I just use the black Proto Drake. I like that. I don't mind it. I like the flying carpet too. I'm weird. I don't have tailoring yet, but I will when I swap to it. I'll be using that flying carpet. I love the flying carpet. Something about that Aladdin.
The
you know,
flying carpet, Aladdin.
it's the best Disney movie.
By the
ever.
way, the reason Invincible's good is because it looks good as a ground mount when you can't fly, and it looks good as a flying mount when you can fly. That's the problem usually with dragons, because when you can't fly, they look kind of terrible if you can use
Yeah.
them.
That's
Nightbane.
true.
Legion when they
That's
redid Karazhan.
there's like a Diablo 3 mount pre-order or Diablo 4 pre-order mount that they just announced like 2 days ago, and it actually looks so fucking cool.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, Joardee.
Did you see the trailer?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, rad.
I'm not even a
Oh my
Diablo
God.
guy. I barely even played him, and I can't wait to play it because of that trailer. I had the trailer. I mean, I had the chills during the whole thing. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You guys want to
Joardee.
play that together? Let's play that together.
Yes. Yes,
Cool,
dude.
cool, yeah, I'm down.
Willie, are you gonna
Well,
play?
I'm kind of new at Diablo, but yeah, sure. I mean,
too.
how hard can it be?
That's the right. I don't know about Diablo.
You just click and bash things. That's all it is. It's just build
Yeah,
a lot.
I think I've
very
seen
fast.
it. It looks like you just run the line and then big numbers
Exactly.
appear on your screen.
Yeah.
I hope Diablo 4 looks
and
a little bit
then
different.
loot appears on the ground. It's great.
Yeah, and like you feel like a god when you get geared, and you're like, oh my god, and then it's just like, and then loot appears. It's like pretty cool, and then you get hit by one mechanic early on, and you're dead.
Yeah.
It's basically Diablo, from what I remember, is pretty much Naxxramas on a warrior with world buffs.
I like the hardcore. I mean, obviously I'm a big hardcore shield, but I like the hardcore thing of Diablo. So the only time I ever played Diablo 3 was when Diablo 2 R came out, like whenever that came out. And I tried like a hardcore run on 3 and made it to the end of the game with ease with no problem, and I died like right away, right when I got to cap level, right? But the DTR or the Diablo 2, I started, everyone was all hyping it up, and I never played Diablo 2 and get the resurrected or whatever, and I get it, and I died like out of 5 times within like 20 minutes of starting the game. It was actually crazy how much harder it was. And that I loved it. D2 was like a lot of fun. So I'm excited for D4, but I hope that it's more like dark like D2 felt like it was, where D3 felt very cartoony and very easy and very like the whole W and zug zug spin spin like you just said. Like I don't like that part of it. But where Diablo 2 was like I had to use my abilities or I was gonna die, I hope Diablo 4 is like that.
I'm intrigued. You guys will have to rope me in though too, because I don't know much about Diablo.
Same. I mean, at all. I just well, I mean, I like Path of Exile. I played the shit out of Path of Exile, and it's those kind of games I never really liked when I was younger, but I love them when I'm older. The build game, so it's really fun. I think.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I played Diablo properly was with a few other people on multiplayer.
Yep.
I never really got into it apart from that, but yeah, it was fun multiplayer.
I feel like you definitely have to like that kind of game, that dungeon crawler, like angle of the camera. I don't know, what is that called? Action RPG. You have to kind of like that, which I typically don't like. The Lost Ark and stuff.
Yeah,
That trailer, man, that trailer looked amazing.
The trailer, the voice acting in the trailer gave me goosebumps. I was like,
yeah,
oh my
dude,
God,
it was. I love the whole dark versus light thing too. That's a big thing, you know. That's we're getting some what is that called? Mines of Moria type shit going on in my head, you know. Down there in the mines with the dark and evil.
All right, well, Diablo, we'll kind of semi-end there, because I know Willie has raids soon. I'm with Ulduar PTR, and we did a huge cover of Ulduar in general. Is there anything that we missed, or any last thoughts towards Ulduar, or any more advice you have for people, or anything you want to just kind of advise? Yeah, any advice, and where can people find you guys? Let's start with you, Joardee.
Prepare. Because you are not prepared right now. Prepare. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of things to catch you up to speed on the strats. So check that out on my YouTube. And yeah, twitch.tv/Joardee, YouTube Joardee. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for being here, Willie.
If I had to say one thing, it's you know, if you have power infusion and there's a warlock in your raid, there's only really one choice where it should go.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Right way. The other thing is Paladin's salvation. You know, without being asked for, that'd be great. That's all I'm going to say.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you got a lot of utility there. Apart from that, YouTube, WillE. That's it. That's where you'll find me.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Oh my God, Holly. Thank you guys so much for being here. Crix, any last advice or last takeaways from Ulduar so far?
Buckle up. It's gonna be rough in there, but you guys can do it. Don't be heartbroken, bro. Know that wipes. Enjoy the wipes, because one day you're not gonna be wiping. It's gonna go back to just blowing through it like Nax, and you're gonna be just bored again. Unless you just like it easy, then you just gotta sit through it for a little bit. I would like to we're gonna do a big episode, I don't know, Monday or something like that, coming up with Irene tanking with all the roles. So tank, healer, melee, range. I want to go over all the bosses. We have a big episode coming up, and I want to do some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of catch up stuff too. Maybe like a healer one or a tanking one, something. I think we should do some Ulduar deep dive stuff, which would be fun.
Definitely. I think so. I think bosses are huge too.
Yeah, stick with us, and we'll try to help you guys prepare for Ulduar the best way that we can, which is how we will personally be preparing, right? And then anything else extra we can help you guys with. We'll get Cosmo on the show soon for his spreadsheet when he's done. You know, stick around, and we'll make sure you guys are taken care of for Ulduar. That's our job.
Yeah, make sure you grab the Thames pack. That is currently the fourth most liked or most downloaded pack on all of WAGO right now, even with the retail new things coming out. That'll be extremely helpful. Week auras will be helpful, guides, preparation, everything you can do, assignments to be ready for this raid. But really just know that you can do it on normal mode. You can do it on 10 man and it'll make the raid a lot easier. You'll actually have real progression and you'll get a lot done. I do want to say, guys, thank you so much for being here. Willie, thank you for taking the time. I know you have raid soon. And Joardee, thank you for waking up so early. And Crix was up pretty late last night. So I appreciate you guys. You can, if you like the podcast, of course, make sure to check us out on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, and all of those websites. And if this is on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe.